Welcome to the Draft Stack. I'm here with Jacob. It's Kyle. We're going to talk. Well, you see the title, or maybe you don't see the title, but it's returners, transfers, or both.
Yeah,
2026 class.
this is our third podcast where we're covering returners. I kind of think that we've reached that fall off point where, that first podcast we did, it was kind of, all right, these guys should be first round picks. And if they're not, they're going to be early seconds. Last time it was like, all right, these guys have first round potential, but they're likely going to be in the second round. These guys are kind of more second round or bust.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and something interesting that I figured out when I just researching this was besides for Biddle and Tomislav and Visic, who we're covering today, all these guys transferred this offseason. Some of them tested the waters, but eventually they all just ended up staying in college and going somewhere else, which kind of speaks to where the NCAA landscape is at right now, and
Mhm.
honestly how it's really affecting the NBA draft. Because we're talking about these guys right now, they might not even be in the draft next year. So
Which, yeah, I mean, if you consider uh, just what this class looks like from 1 to 30 already, and what it's shaping up to be, these guys are very much like, unless they have a spectacular season
mhm.
that moves them up the board, which is going to be so difficult to do. But I don't think they're bad players. I just think that some of them have maybe age against them. We'll talk about a few of them. Darren Williams as an example. Um, Ian Jackson, who I'm impressed with, but I'm not sure what he's going to be able to. He's not really a point guard, and I mean that has a lot to do with something we kind of touched on before pod. But let's get this ball rolling. We're going with Mackenzie. I want to say this right. Mbako, I believe
Mackenzie
is
and Baco, I think.
okay.
That's what I think. So he was a former five-star recruit, played at Indiana for 2 seasons before transferring to Texas A&M this season. So his freshman season kind of played with inconsistency and lapses on both sides of the floor, but he did improve last year. He's a 6'8" wing, 217 pounds, very desired frame. Something else that's desired from him is his shooting touch. I know he didn't. His shooting stats don't look amazing.
Right.
He shot 32%, 0.9% from three last year, but he shot with no shortage of confidence. 143 attempts last year. His mechanics are clean and consistent. Thrive as a catch and shoot floor spacer, as 95.7% of them were assisted. And he's not a super creative shooter off the bounce.
Right.
Most of his shots were quick 1, 2, 3 dribble pull ups, which were good in 3-point land and the mid range. I think he's a better shooter than the stats advertise. I think he has a quick release and everything. He moves off ball really well. I believe he tested the waters this year.
I believe so too. And then, yeah, I didn't. It didn't last very long. He quickly made a decision to go back to school. Which, uh, part of this to me, and especially because this is our third pod, I think I could say this. Part of this has to do a lot of what their role was going to be. Funny enough, looking at some of the names here, if they had stayed, they would probably still been second round picks. However, I think they maybe this previous draft class was probably the better draft class to try to maybe move up. Especially with what we saw with oh my goodness, St. Mary's. I cannot remember his name. The forward he dropped to the Suns. My goodness. Um 31st pick. I'm drawing a blank, guys. Sorry.
Oh, Rasheer Fleming.
There's Sheer Fleming. There we go. Who I allotted a bunch. I have like too many names. But yeah, we saw Rasheer Fleming fall from the first round to the second round, and I think he is extremely talented. He's going to be talented for the Suns. And just as an example, so I think some of the guys on this list here, went back to school. If they improve, that's a different conversation to have. Um, and the whole thing with Rasheer falling is also a different conversation to have.
Yeah.
But Mackenzie, I have in my list my notes here. The defense, of course, is where I'm going first. He's improved screen navigation for sure. He still is going to likely struggle against shifty wings.
Yep.
Does need to improve his footwork on the perimeter a little bit. Uh, Also, I think he does find good pockets on defense, so that's something he has good strength for. And you talked about the lack of creation as far as creating his own shot, but I do think his off-ball movement maybe makes up a little bit for it.
Yes. No,
Like,
I agree. I think he's a pretty good relocator. I think he uses a lot of creative cuts to get open, like a lot of unique ones, not kind of just like running around pin down screens, but like he's trying to lose defenders.
yes,
He
yes,
has that like mindset.
and I think I'm intrigued. So admittedly, I did not see as much of A&M last season. Um, I am intrigued to see how he gets used,
Right. Yeah.
and what that looks like for him. Honestly, I guess one of my things are he does have a a bit of a question mark on motor a little bit, just a
Mhm.
bit. And so I'm wondering what he can do to sustain throughout the season and what his impact is going to be.
Right, right. I mean, yeah, I think I agree with that. I think the motor is definitely a big question. Like I said, he showed last freshman year that was definitely more evident. No, he did show a little increase in it last year, being so much more involved in Indiana's offense. But Indiana, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. That's been just an awful situation the past couple of years. Um, so I do think that in Texas A&M, no, they have. I believe they have a new coach now, Buzz Williams. He's gone. So I think McKenzie will probably be their primary option next year, if I had to
Yeah,
guess.
I think so too.
Wade Taylor's gone, I believe. So I think his over my thing with him is just, he doesn't really have a motor, and he's not like, what else is he gonna do to stand out? Because he's a good shooter. I think I'm a bigger believer in his shooting than most, but right now the stats are saying that he's not a good shooter. And in
Right.
the game, it's saying that he's not a good shooter and sometimes tends to take difficult shots. So if I'm an NBA team, I'm like, all right, he's flashing that potential, but why would I take a guy that's flashing it versus a guy who there's 100% a guy that's going to be like Kobe Bryant next year, who's like, all right, he's a dead eye shooter. Let's take him.
And I think that's one of the interesting things about this class. And I apologize to those who are viewing. I might mention this a few times throughout this. That's the interesting thing about the top end of the class from 1 to 30. There's a lot of talent. Like, I don't know if people have looked at it as much. So if you haven't, take a look, and we'll have boards out and everything. Um, and they're pretty comprehensive. So the point of the matter is, there's so much talent from 1 to 30. Breaking that 30 mark is going to take something substantial from some of these guys during the season. Uh, how much they can improve is really up to them. Obviously, I'm not topping out their ceiling. However, there will be some questions on some of them wanting to be first round picks. I just believe it would take some really, really good play, a lot of high IQ adjustments, and a bit more proficiency, especially as a returner, since testing the water. I know they probably did some kind of workouts for some teams and maybe saw maybe the level of play needs to be better. Also, a lot of this has to do with the money, which we've talked about a few times, that they're going to get paid probably a little bit more just for the year to return to school versus sitting on somebody's roster and probably not getting play time. So I, I think to me,
That really applies to the next guy we're going to talk about, because
yeah,
we both know talent wise, he's there. He's former 5-star. We're talking about Ian Jackson, former 5-star recruit, McDonald's All American. He was all over YouTube, TikTok highlight mixtapes.
mhm.
He's one of the more well known returners in college basketball. He's going to St. John's next season under Rick Pitino, who just said today he doesn't have a point guard on his roster. So that makes things interesting to see where Jackson's playing, whether it's more of an off ball role. We'll see. But at UNC last year, 11.9 points per game. Didn't really do that much outside of score the ball.
Mhm.
2.7 rebounds, 0.9 assists. Shooting splits were all right. 45.6 from the field. The 3-point percentage is where he caught eyes. 39.5% from the field. he's a sniper from that range.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you were talking about being able to hit shots off the bounce and off the catch. He's a very creative scorer. He's great at breaking down defenses. He gets to his spots on the floor. Another thing with Ian Jackson that I really like is just his overall juice on the
Yes.
floor.
Yeah.
His electricity, his confidence, that stands out. He's gonna hit a guy with a quick twitch and gets to the basket. He's gonna, like I said, he collects highlight plays. Creativity is the name of the game for him. He's an acrobatic finisher. He adjusts his body midair very well and still converts some difficult lanes.
Mhm.
He uses his slender frame to his advantage, I think, to find angle as well and use it and get to the basket. And
Okay.
also, he just has a deep bag of dribble moves.
Yeah.
Wide variety of just like crossovers, hezzies between the legs.
I mean, and to me, one of the things that popped off when I was watching him last draft class is the pace. The pace is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Quick decisions, very shifty, as you mentioned. I think he puts a lot of pressure on the rim, especially for somebody that isn't like a more muscular guy. Just puts on a lot of pressure. I think one of the things was his role was very, in my opinion, undefined at UNC. Wasn't sure what exactly they wanted from him. He played a lot of
That seemed to be the issue with all of UNC's players last year.
yeah, a lot of off ball, which was interesting.
Because he's definitely a stronger on ball scorer than off ball, but also
Right.
playing with RJ Davis and Seth Trimble, that made it probably really hard last season.
Agreed. Agreed. And I think one of the things that I wanted to see from him is probably more on ball reps. And with Patino, legendary coach, so I'm not going to question, his statement so much as I'm going to figure out what does that mean he doesn't have a point guard? Because he has guys who can handle the ball.
Yeah,
If he means the traditional aspect of a point guard, and for those who are watching, if there is a difference between a Steve Nash, a Jason Kidd, an Halliburton, who are guys who are your traditional pass first facilitator. And then there's a lot of the NBA and even college ball that is more SGA, LaMelo Ball, Steph Curry, guys who are more score first. It's not that they cannot they cannot create opportunities with passing. Don't get me twisted here. But their primary aspect is the gravity they create from scoring, and then they find guys. But their first thing is to score. So I don't know if that's what Patino is saying. There's a lot of guys who are more score savants.
Yes, because so they have right now probably the candidates to who's going to be listed at starting at the one. It's probably going to be Ian Jackson, who I have my concerns about just because, like we said, not a great playmaker, only less than an assist a game last year. Was a little bit turnover prone, over dribbled a lot, or played too fast at times. They also have Osiah Sellers, who's more of a catch and shoot guy, and then Jozan Sanon, who we're going to talk about very shortly. He's not really that much of a playmaker or high decision maker either. So someone's going to have to pick up the reins on this and actually be a playmaker. And Ian Jackson's probably the best suited guy just because he is by far the best ball handling skills out of all these guys, best ball security and everything. So he's probably going to really have to heighten his overall decision making and feel for the game. I think would do wonders for his draft stock if he averaged something 3 assists, 4 assists per game, showing that he's just not just a guy that's going to score, but he also can create for others and can use his scoring gravity to his advantage to get others open.
Right. And I think, the 3-point shooting, as you mentioned, is something he's proficient at. Obviously, one of the issues you mentioned, the over dribbling. He's going to need to be a little bit more vocal, especially if he is going to be point guard. He seems more of kind of a laid back guy from what I understand. I don't know him personally. And so I think going to St. John's, he wants a bigger role. Clearly was what the focus is. Now, it is interesting to note what Patino decides his role is going to be. Obviously, the scoring is going to be there. that might take a 3 to 4 point jump, which may not seem like a lot to people, but from 11 to 15 to maybe 16 or 17, that's a marginal upgrade as far as scoring. Now, we're not worried about the scoring. To your point, he does have a tight handle. However, he needs to use that handle to find other guys.
Mm-hmm.
And my challenge, not that he would even be listening to me, but my challenge would be averaging 5. If he can average 5 assists a game, so if he's averaging 17 and 5, maybe 5 boards, that's a great season, in my opinion, from him. Because the other guys are going to get touches.
Jumping up to 5 assists would be incredibly hard. I will say
I
that.
agree. But if he's going to have the ball as much as maybe we think he's going to, especially since they don't have a point guard at the moment.
Right. But they also do have I'm wondering if Patino's going to take the ball out of the ball out of the guards' hands and maybe put in guys like Bryce Hopkins or Ruben Prey's hand more. Forwards who are capable ball handlers. Dylan Mitchell as well, who's a very good transition player. Right. And can start up like a fast break or something. So it's going to be really interesting to see what St. John's roster configuration looks like on court. It's a perfect segue to Josen Sanon,
absolutely,
who's also going to be at St. John's. And we mentioned this roster configuration. Sanon might not even start next season.
No,
there's a chance he doesn't. I don't know how many games he started last year at Arizona State. I do know though that let me just check. He started 9 games last season at Arizona State. Got off to a hot start last year.
Mm-hmm.
Early in the season, had a ton of draft buzz. Nick was a huge fan of him. I'm pretty sure Nick had him top 5 at one point.
Yep,
which was wild. So he's transferring from Arizona State to St. John's. At Arizona State, he averaged 11.9 points per game, 3.4 rebounds, 1 assist, shooting 42% from the field, 36.9% from 3, and 71.4% from the free throw line. Now, he flashed a lot of isolation scoring at Arizona State. He's one of the smoother scorers in the country, comfortable scoring off the bounce, scoring up, spotting up, or in the mid-range or in the three-point area. Uses a variety of jab steps, dribble moves to score at will. He's a really high-quality shooter with legit and proven volume. 122 attempts last year, 77% were assisted. So that makes you think he can fit and scale down in an NBA system moving off the ball, but also he can also prioritize and capitalize on defenses sagging off of him, and when he gets the ball, making a dribble move to get open and knock down a shot.
Agreed. And so I'm going to target the 42%. Mm-hmm. I would love to see that be 5, not 5. That's crazy. 3% higher. If he could average 45% shooting, I know that doesn't sound like a great stat for some of the people listening, but I believe that if you can shoot 45% field goal percentage, he's taking much better shots. He's a little more efficient on the shot taking. Reducing some of those contested jumpers will be important to kind of boosting that percentage as well. Mm-hmm. I think Pitino is the type of coach who values getting good shots or great shots.
He'll discipline Sanon if he's going to take these bad isolation fadeaway jumpers, which he does sometimes.
And then we heard the 1 assist. He's not the guy we're expecting to play at a facilitator. Now, this is no knock on his basketball IQ. I just don't think that's his. No. It's not the swing skill,
right? At all. So I actually noticed when watching him. I've been watching him for a while now. Last year, I watched when I had access to what's it called. When I accessed the full games last year, I did notice that. Yeah, I thought that he didn't capitalize on drives enough to play make, because there would be times where he had an open guy for a kick out and he completely missed them and passed them up for a tough shot. So his processing speed definitely will have to get adjusted. I also think that the 6'5" frame, while it is somewhat ideal, he's 194 pounds. It's not for him. It's got to go up 1, his weight. 2, he's kind of a tweener between a wing and a guard. Yeah, because he's got quick feet. He's 6'5". I don't think he's that long. He's also just not strong. He had a very limited impact on the defensive end because he lacked that physicality.
Mm-hmm.
His awareness wasn't all there, and it was pretty hit or miss. But his lack of strength really limited him as a point of attack guy or as a rotation piece.
For those who just joined, we're talking Josin Sanon, and so from there, I think also maybe moving his hips a little bit more, improving the lateral quickness a little bit more as well, because I don't think he's elite at those aspects. And his wingspan is pretty average if you consider his height. You would think it would be, you expect a little bit more. The weight definitely has to go up. I would like to see him maybe closer to 200, just for the weight aspect, and can deal some of the physicality back. And we talked about the reading. I want him to be able to read defenders a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe, kind of lean into figuring out the driving kick aspect. If he's not going to, he needs to capitalize on those drives, especially if he is going to drive to the basket. I think that Pitino's offense requires some of that as a necessary, finding the open guy. So to me, I think one of the things is he's probably going to be more of a two guard than he is going to be one, and he's going to be a two guard versus being a wing, because the wing rotation is pretty loaded at St. John's right now. So I believe he's going to be good. I just believe that he might need to widen the tunnel vision, especially with the playmaking. I'm not asking him for 5 assists because that's just not his role. But I would like to see him find maybe a hockey assist, like look for what's the better opportunity versus taking a shot. So we'll see what that looks like.
So I think
it's crazy.
Something that would benefit him greatly, which would do wonders for his playmaking game, would be him being able to get to the rim more. Because right now he really lacks that rim pressure ability. Like I said, he's weak, and it makes him hard for him to score against physical defenders. So he'll really only drive in the paint if he's open, or if he sees an opportunity to take a tough jumper in it. So if he can start getting used to attacking the paint more and using more creative finishes and absorbing contact a little bit more, defenders are going to step up on him, and he'll be able to process the reads faster for kickouts to shooters, which this St. John's team is going to have plenty of.
And crazy enough, that is the perfect transition to Darren Williams, because he does not lack physicality at all. Yeah. Complete 180 on that. If I have he's like 230, 6'6".
He's 236.
Jesus.
Actually, I have a bone to pick with Darren Williams right now, because we saw the entire season his physicality on display at Texas Tech, and when he was in the NBA Combine, he was a ghost. He was just like running up and down the floor, like just doing cardio. He wasn't using his strength at all. He wasn't attacking the rim. He wasn't crashing boards. He wasn't playing in the flow game, which he was so good at last season. Like, what happened?
I don't know if maybe he realized that because they were playing NBA pace. Maybe he's like, man, I don't know if my conditioning is. Now, I'm not knocking his conditioning for any of those watching. I'm just saying going from college and then doing combine stuff, you realize that the pace is that much faster. The style of play is just slightly different. And those adjustments needing to be made is all the difference on somebody's performance during a combine. And so I think some teams were probably impressed with him, but considering his age, again, I'm not big on the age stuff for some certain prospects. I think he's pretty good at defense. I think his post game is interesting. He gets shots off. He is pretty tough at boxing out, which is crazy. Like, I think Jordan talked about this last pod, that boxing out typically is not a skill that typically gets guys drafted. The way that he boxes out would probably be one of the reasons he does get drafted.
He's a very strong rebounder, for wing dominant as a rebounder. Yeah. And that's going to be huge for potential lineup flexibility, because he'll play the 4. Dare I say, the small ball 5.
Which, I mean, there are some teams wild enough to do it. We've seen it. I do think one of the skills that I have here in my notes is he is a high IQ passer.
Yeah, for sure.
Turnovers weren't that high. I think it's at 1.6, if I'm correct. The assists are at 3.3, which is crazy considering his style of game. He could make less risky passes, Other than that, though, I think he's a pretty smart player. Now, his offense is interesting to me,
Yeah.
mainly because he relies a lot on post-ups. It's
Yeah.
not that he
So,
can't do anything else, but
like, a part of me kind of thinks that, yeah, maybe he was so dominant in college because one, he's so physically imposing, and two, so savvy in the paint, which obviously guys who are savvy in the paint and stronger than everyone else, they're going to produce numbers. No, he
mhm.
has a wide variety, an array of pivot moves and ball fakes he uses. No, I think, like you said, very good post passer, very good passer on the inside. And if he wasn't posting up, he was bulldozing his way into the paint.
Oh man, and I think he doesn't have a problem communicating. So that's another thing. I think
Yeah.
that's going to be one of his strengths.
Mhm.
Also, I hope that his footwork is a little bit better defensively and
Yeah,
sharpening a
I was
little
about to
bit.
say, if you were talking about footwork on offense, I'd be like, I thought his footwork was
Oh no,
fine.
no, defensively. You know where I'm
Defensively, yeah, that needs help. Yeah.
and my thing is okay. We talked about his post up game. This might be a hot take. His self creation is semi limited.
It is. I agree because I think he struggles to separate from like athletic defenders, especially
Right
in like tight spaces. So like against these longer guys who are going to be in the NBA level, he's probably going to have to default to some like tough shots or just making like quick swing passes.
now, granted, we talked about his touch around the rim. If if he's even more proficient at his touch this upcoming season, then some of those questions are different.
Mhm.
Um, because you know, I don't necessarily want to go this route, but I think they would be interesting to kind of caveat. Draymond, obviously they're different players, but Draymond is technically an undersized four. You could say five. And so to me, some of the tools that he uses to get off shots, he doesn't shoot a lot, but when he does get off some shots, they're floaters, they're a layup. He does finish at the rim. So Darian is different from that perspective that he's looking to post up. I will say that the similarity is tied to being a glue guy. And that's kind of my ceiling for him is a high end glue guy, somebody that fits into a roster and does all the dirty work, which is what I have down here. He's a team first guy. Uh, and so I think him being a connective piece is where, and I'm probably sure someone's going to think I'm insulting him, but I really am like, this is high praise here. I think he's the type of guy you want on your team. He's going to do all the things you want, a player to do that maybe someone else is not going to want to do. He thrives in that. So
Can I throw out a comp?
please,
Grant Williams.
I like it.
I think
And I
I think
like
he's a
it.
better rebounder than Grant Williams, but I also do think that Grant Williams was a much better defender.
I agree with that. Faster. I would say that we just talked about footwork on defense. I think Grant has better footwork defensively
I agree.
than Williams does. However, I think also can his 3-point shooting or catch and shoot shooting be even better?
Right.
Which is one of the things that I think is going to be the swing skill for him.
Yeah.
That will open up the paint for him, especially if he can look to relocate and stretch the floor for NC State. So he's going to be a second round guy, I think, still just
Yeah.
because of him being a returner. And
Also, he's going for the Big 12. They're playing in the ACC. So it's
right,
not like you're going to see these other there's going to be mid-major guys who jump to power conferences and do better. And those guys are probably going to be the ones that end up passing Williams because he went to a slightly lower level. But
right.
he might be the ACC player of the year this year. And NC State should be a tournament team under Will Wade this year.
I
So
agree
we'll
with
see.
that. I
So,
mean, now granted, he'll be 23 next April. So that's
mhm,
not even, I'm not saying this guy's 30 years old. Okay. So
right.
just to put that out there. But from some of the scouts, some of the things that NBA teams look for, some of the stuff that tends to be a detractor for some guys. Typically the age range, unfortunately, and I say this unfortunately because I think sometimes some guys get past that.
It's a big reason why Nee Clifford fell this past year.
Exactly. Who I think is going to be incredible for Sacramento.
Mhm.
But typically it's from 18 to 22 ish. I want to say 21. And it doesn't seem like a big gap, and that's because it's not. Like, really, teams are looking for guys that they can mold into what they want. The quiet thing said that I'm about to say is that typically teams believe whoever this guy is at a certain point is who he is, and so there's not much more they can mold. I'm not necessarily an agreeer with that, simply because of, as an example, and this is a drastic example because I think he will be somebody he's not gonna. I don't think he's gonna be in the Hall of Fame, but he's somebody who was really good, has been good for a very long time, and that's Al Horford, who was not necessarily, he wasn't a 3-point shooter. I mean, the talent was unbelievable. So I'm not getting into it. He was incredible for Florida, but he wasn't the player he is now. I mean, some of it showed flashes in his prime, but to me,
guys mold all the time. Perk Lopez completely moved,
right, changing, and so I would say that if Williams is able to caveat back into the conversation, if Williams is able to continue to add skill sets, continue to improve in different ways, that's going to have, especially as a glue guy, he's going to have a long career. I think that's just one of those things that a team is probably going to get a steal out of him, and you'll be like, what? Did not expect that from him on the NBA level at all. I think that's the kind of player he is, especially because he does all he's the coach's favorite. Like, you got your star player, and then you got him where he's gonna box out, he's gonna dive for loose balls, he's gonna do all the things, the intangibles.
You love him if he's on your team. You absolutely despise him if he's not.
Absolutely. This next guy, I find it funny because who he has on the roster, if I'm correct here, PJ Haggerty. I found his offense interesting, especially at 6'3".
I think PJ Haggerty is one of the most prolific scorers I think I've ever seen in college basketball. You know, he's on to his fourth school right now, which some people will say it's a red flag. He was a redshirt at TCU, went to Tulsa, dominated, went to Memphis last year, was a third leading scorer in the entire country, averaging 21.7 points per game. And now he's playing for Jerome Tang in Kansas State. So all eyes are going to be on him. All-American last year. Easy to see why. He's a generally an insane scorer. Over his career, this stat, when I was just going through Bar Torvik and Sports Reference, I found this. He's averaged over just about 28% usage, and he's maintained a true shooting percentage throughout that time of 58.3%, which is a ridiculous stat.
It is. To me, his game is interesting because you would say, I mean, I have some of the stuff here, like capable kick and drive passer. I think the assists are 3.8, if I'm correct.
3.7.
And I think I guess what is he going to have the ball primarily? Is he going to be their point guard, or is he going to be their two guard? Is really
he's going to be Kansas State's guy next year. He's going to be he might be a Wooden Award candidate next year. That's how good I think PJ Hack, or how skilled he is. If we're talking about him as an NBA prospect, the first thing people are going to say is the size, because we both know if you're a 6'3", 6'2" guard, you need to be an unbelievable scorer or an unbelievable passer. Haggerty is an unbelievable scorer, and we've seen that.
Yes.
I think he also knows how to use his small body well, which not a lot of these electric microwave scoring guards who are small, who you see dominate at college level, know how to do. He leverages it pretty well on defense. I mean, he averaged nearly 2 steals a game last year. I'm not saying he's some otherworldly defender, but he's definitely a guy that's reactive, and knows how to feed off other people's mistakes or his teammates' successes. He doesn't have the wingspan. Sometimes he does ball watch, and sometimes he does get targeted, but he will make these gritty plays where no one will see him coming, and he'll just get the steal and instant fast break, instant offense.
Which, I mean, that's what I have down here is microwave score. He can really cook. My question marks are, if I had to put any question marks, are system familiarity. Just like there isn't a lot of continuity. I'm not calling it a red flag because that to me isn't a red flag. Decision making is decision making. If that's what he wants to do, that's up to him. However, adjusting to each system is a challenge. Now, I don't think he's a low IQ guy at all. However, taking time to figure out a system, it can take some time, and especially if he's going to be the guy. What does that look like for his teammates, especially if he is going to be? I wonder if he does play point guard.
Right. I think he will. He should.
What does that look like for his teammates? Can he trust him more as a facilitator? Because obviously he can't go 1-on-5.
Right.
So
I'm actually that's really interesting. The system part you brought up, jumping from system to system. I think he hasn't really had to adjust to it because he's been the system. It's built around him anywhere he's gone. So if we're projecting him on an NBA standpoint, that's definitely a red flag because he's not going onto any NBA roster and being the system because only 10 guys in the world can really probably do that.
Right. And unless he's going to be otherworldly, which, I mean, if I'm correct, I have stats here for almost 22 points per game, which is tough in college. I don't like averaging 20 plus in college is crazy, Pete. Like, I don't think people realize, but it is difficult to average that much. There are only a few guys who do it. And if they do, typically they are going for, depending on what their team stats are and what the record looks like, are typically trying to win player of the year in some cases. Now, I'm hoping he's able to, because if people are saying it's a red flag, scouts are we're going to be scouting him. And there's others who are up the NBA chain who are going to be looking to see what more can he do aside from scoring. NBA has scorers. They have guys who can score, but that's not their primary role when they get to the NBA. We see it all the time. So the possibility is this is going to be a swing here. Does he want to play pickup ball or does he want to make the NBA? And that's really kind of the question here. Because anybody can score. When you're playing pickup, anybody wants to get their bucket. They want to get their own.
Are you going to be Peyton Pritchard or are you going to be Bones Highland?
And I love Bones Highland. Bones Highland. Creative. I think he's athletic. I think he's a talented guy. I'm not sure that he is.
There's a reason why he just signed to Turkey like yesterday.
Yeah. So, that it's there's levels to this. Can he adjust to a role? Is he able to be a little bit better at, especially as a point guard? And can he adapt well to that? So
and I think Haggerty has enough green flags to do so. I'm a believer in him. We didn't touch upon this yet, but he shot. So I think he had like an insane rim finishing rate this year, and his career free throw rate is 63.6%. He is not afraid to attack the basket at all. Right. He changes speeds very well, which will help him break down defenders, and he does not shy away from contact whatsoever. So he definitely, I feel like, has that mentality and enough green flags to be an undersized guy that cracks into a rotation. Yes. And like I said, uses his body well. So this is one of the guys I think I'm more optimistic on this list. Probably so far the guy I'm most optimistic about, honestly.
And I guess my only part I would add to that is just quick learning and off ball. Granted, he's going to be a point guard, likely. However, in cases where he doesn't have the ball, what can he look like off ball, especially because he's a microwave scorer? How much of that can he use to create gravity and opportunities for his teammates?
Yeah.
So from him to I thought he was going to test.
He did test this year.
And I thought he was going to stay.
I think a lot of teams liked him. I think the analytics loved him this year.
We're talking about Nate Biddle.
Yeah, Nate Biddle. So it feels like he's been in college forever, but he's never been healthy throughout his college career. Last year was his first healthy season, and my God, did he produce 14.2 points per game, 7.6 rebounds, 2.1 blocks off of 51.1% from the field, 33% from three. Yep, from three, 81.1% from the free throw line. So he has a clear, analytically, Stat nerds are going to love him. They're going
Agreed.
to adore him. He had a box plus minus of 10 last year, probably one of the highest in the Big Ten.
Yep.
He has clear impact. He has clear scalability, rim protection, defensive rebounding, space at the floor, and scoring efficiency.
And he's the kind of guy that you want to slide in and play. I think this is a 5th season, so this is really it. And so if he's able to put things together, obviously the stats say it, the analytics say it, the effort is there, the energy is there. He plays with a lot of passion. I think he's going to end up on a roster and end up being just one of those guys that crowd loves, team loves. He does all the other stuff. His ability to stretch the floor is well documented, and also I think if you consider who he plays for, the pace that he's able to play with is something that is important for him transitioning to the next level.
Yeah.
Again, I do think he's going to be a 2nd-round guy also, because that's mainly the talk.
A team will 100% take a flyer on him in the early 2nd. Like, there's no doubt in my mind about it. He can even go in the 1st, I think.
I would say if he has the type of season we think he can have, 30 is not out of the question. I don't even think
he's going to produce. We know he's going to produce.
Now, the question, this goes back to the age thing a little bit. 5th season. I mean, he's got some size. He will be 23 around draft time.
Yeah.
So, there aren't huge questions. He's not 25, which, again, that doesn't scare me away, but typically that's when a guy's entering his prime. So there would be questions more if that was the case. However, just turning 3 around draft time, I think a lot of teams are going to enjoy having him, especially at 7 feet. The size is there. And so to me, I think that's kind of, to sum him up a little bit, is just he plays both sides of the ball well, and you're not going to question his effort at all.
Yeah.
I do think one of the things that I may have small questions about is tougher competition. Can he be even more proficient? Because that's like where teams are going to look, is how much can he meet the level of play, and can he be efficient? I mean, his last game, he had 16 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists in 34 minutes. So clearly he can be productive. I'm just intrigued to see how much more he can add to this going forward.
So yeah, I think that he's just a natural Goliath in college basketball because he's 7 feet tall. He's going to produce, like I said. But I think the question turns to, okay, is he athletic enough to be on an NBA floor? Because he averaged 2.1 points per game. I mean, blocks per game. That blocking was more of a length plus timing type thing, more than being a quick twitch, get off the floor fast type shot blocking or recovering from behind. He's a strong defensive rebounder too, but he's going to project better as a drop coverage guy because he's coordinated and not the most agile laterally. He's going to struggle to defend guys who can put the ball on the floor because he is a little flat-footed in space. But if he can show an improvement in that area and just play above the rim a little bit more on both sides of the ball, I see no reason why a team wouldn't take a flyer on him.
Which, I mean, most teams are going to take a flyer on anybody 7 feet with skills. He does have both. So,
and the floor spacing is really what separates him from other big prospects. Because if you're shooting 33.6% as a guard or a wing, it's like, okay, we don't know. If you're a big, it's probably a really good indicator. Plus to 81% from the line.
Right. At 7 feet. Again, that's kind of it. Like, we've moved to where bigs are going to stretch the floor. That's just part of the skill set. And so he's one of the guys that can do it. I do think a team is going to take a flyer if they are going to, because of his age. It's a slide and play kind of thing. He knows he's coming off the bench. He's going to accept his role. Seems like the kind of guy that does that. And there's a few teams that just need size. And so I think he's going to add that for team. I'm intrigued to see what he looks like. The 50% from the field is incredible, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I just think that shows he does take good shots. He takes efficient shots. He's not forcing anything. He plays at his pace. So I'm intrigued to see what that looks like. The defending might still be a question. Like obviously you mentioned him not being quick on his feet so much. But if he was able to improve his lateral quickness just a little bit more,
Yeah.
you'll be able to utilize his body and his size a little bit more, and that can help with that. The blocks, we've talked about this a few times, and I hope people are going to get used to it. There's shot blocking as a rim protector, and then there's shot deterring, where you just don't get past them at the rim. Like you don't get an attempt at the rim. So if he's able to be more of a rim deterrent, because I'm not expecting him to average 2 or more blocks every single game. Like that just, if he's able to do that, it's an incredible skill, and he's just got great timing. However, if he's able to just use his 7-foot frame and deter guys from getting past him, that does so much for Oregon's defense long term over the blocking. Because I think some of that also is him having to recover every single time can be exhausting. So some of that is conditioning, yes, but also some of it is playing with higher IQ on defense.
Yes.
And maybe not having to recover so much because the person didn't get past you in the first place. So that's kind of what I want from him, is if he's able to kind of switch that up a little bit. And now the funny thing about it is I just said IQ and we're swapping over to Xavier Lee.
I mean, he's got to have an IQ if he went to Princeton for 3 years.
Listen, I there were a lot of people making fun of him and kind of his wanting to test the NBA. He's 21 years old and he's 6'4". He played with a lot of pace. I have his stats here. It was 16.9 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, 5.5 assists at 43.9 field goal percentage shooting.
Yeah, and he was one of the most complete shot makers in college ball last year.
Now,
he had that rare combination of both volume and efficiency.
And he went to Princeton. Like the guy clearly has IQ. So if he has a role, to me, it's one of those things where he's closer. He can get to the rim because we've seen that with him. He does drive well. Shot creation is interesting. I think he is creative with that.
I think he's a very, very creative shot creator. I think he uses a lot of different dribble moves. Has a really nice dribble crossover. Has he? I think, like you said, the pace. He changed gear really well. I think he helps him create offense, both as a pick and roll and isolation guy. So he's got NBA level touch craft. I think he has NBA level touch and craft. I don't know if he does because he was playing at Princeton for 3 years, which he's not playing against the best competition. But this year at Florida should really be like the tell-all sign for who he is as a player and what his ceiling is, because he's going into a system there where he's not the guy that the offense is being run through. Boogie Flan, Alex Condon, Thomas Howe, all 3 of them are going to get more touches than him, and that's the reality of it. Obviously, he's one of the more touted transfers in the portal, but he's going to need to elevate his off-ball game. He's going to be his catch and shoot shots. He's going to have to make smart cuts. He's going to have to fill in that Will Richard role from last year and a little bit of what Denzel Aberdeen did on both sides of the ball, because Aberdeen was a really big connective playmaker on both sides of the ball. Xavier Lee really didn't demonstrate that ability to play make off ball or within the flow of the offense. With the ball being in your hand so much at a mid-major level, it really is hard to say what you would be in a scale down role. So this year is just going to be like huge for him, playing against stronger and better competition. Plus, he's also just very skinny.
Yeah, I think some of that has to do with frame. 10 pounds will do it. I don't think he needs to be higher than 190. Just for being able to, because he is crafty. Some of his shots around the basket, playing against faster, stronger, more physical competition is going to be something that I want to see if he is able to adjust to quickly.
Mhm.
Also, I'm intrigued to see what he looks like as a passer. The 5.5 assists do not get past me at all. I'm wondering, obviously, since he won't have the ball in his hands as much, is he if he's able to continue to make those reads
Right.
at
And
the
most of them were live dribble passes, like, really, like, it wasn't a variety of passes.
right,
So, unlocking that aspect of the game would be huge,
yeah.
just being as a secondary guy.
And it's at Florida. So again, we'll get to see whether or not he is up to par with tougher competition. And I would love to see his IQ utilized well in Florida. Obviously, there's other guys who are going to get uh, more touches than him. You talked about the off ball, his movement without the ball, the cuts without the ball, um, and just making reads on how he can manipulate the defense. Also, I want to see what he's like as a catch and shoot shooter because that's some of where his points are going to come from.
Mhm.
Obviously, if I'm correct, let me see. I have stats here again. Uh, career stats from three
I
are
mean,
around
he shot
30,
he shot 36 last year.
36. Yeah. Uh, so I'm intrigued to see the free throw shooting has been good. It dropped a couple of points since the first season, and then every year his point total has gone up,
Mhm.
and it's there's a level of consistency at around 17 points per game. So obviously, because some of that has to do with him having the ball in his hands, him being kind of their primary creator, I want to see what that looks like differently. Maybe that drops down to 13. However, if he can average 13 on this Florida team, that's huge for them.
That's
Um,
impressive. That's
and
impressive.
so honestly, the points are what people are going to look at. It's for me, it's the intangibles, the application of them here in Florida, and bringing that kind of high IQ basketball to them, which I think they have a good system. I think they have high IQ guys anyway.
Mm.
But somebody with his IQ and his intellect, I think, is going to improve even some of the. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking a lot of hockey assists where he maybe doesn't
Right.
get the initial assist, but he makes a pass that like, oh, there's a perfect opportunity right here.
Yep.
We move the defense from side to side. So I'm intrigued to see what he looks like for Florida. It's a different player than what they've had. And so I'm intrigued to see what he looks like. So from him to Tomislav
Ivisic.
Ivisic, I want to say
So,
it correctly.
we're gonna end this pod doing the Ivisic twin. I don't not twin, the Ivisic brothers. They're both from Croatia. Uh, so we're gonna go into Tomislav first. Last year he was a freshman at Illinois, 7'1", colossal, 255 pounds. He was one of the most skilled shooting bigs in the country last year. He averaged 13 points per game flat, off 35.7% from three. He accompanied that with 7.7 rebounds, 2.3 assists, and 1.6 blocks per game. So, like I said, his shooting is his calling card, especially as a big. He proved his catch and shoot value in a lot of different
Mhm.
schemes, whether that was as a pick and pop guy, a trail guy, or just spotting up on the wing. And he really benefited from all the talented guards Illinois had last season, whether it was Kyle and Boswell or Kasparas Yakushonas. Inside as well, he was pretty elite. He has good hands, good size. His touch also made him a high level target for a lot of dump offs and seals.
Mhm.
And while he's similar to Nate Biddle, he's not the traditional vertical athlete. He's long, he's smarter, and I do think he's going to be mobile enough to contest, and he doesn't really foul that much. So he's going to collect blocks. Now, he might be another guy that's benefiting from being so much bigger than
Yes.
everybody in college basketball, but also at the same time, he knows, like I said, he knows how to use his body. He knows how to time things up. He knows how to challenge someone at the rim horizontally, even though it's not vertically. And he's not really that much of a lob threat, but he knows how to use his feet. So
Yes. Yeah.
he's probably one of the guys I'm higher on this list than most, just because I think that he's a very cerebral player. Also very good at establishing position in the post.
Yes.
He's able to body defenders very easily. I'm interested to see what that's like against more athletic guys
Mhm.
because it's still college level. So I'm a big fan of him. I like his game.
I would love to see his defensive slides, his movement just a little bit more.
Hmm.
Uh, I would. So the next step for me for him is being better in the pick and roll defense. Just because especially because of his skill set, you want to have him on the floor. Him getting cooked in the pick and roll would be
Yeah,
a terrible thing. And so I would hope to see some of that. He
that's his
does
biggest
have,
issue. It's
yeah,
by far his biggest issue.
yeah. High post playmaker, as you mentioned, he does have a high IQ, does play with feel, can play with both hands around the basket.
Mhm.
Um, I'm wondering about his switchability, and that's kind of where I am.
There's not that much switchability if you're wondering about it. Little to none.
It like I watched a little bit of his tape, and I have questions.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I would like to see, that's kind of where the NBA is right now, is being able to switch and being able to kind of grow his defensive acumen.
Hmm.
Obviously, that stuff is tough to add on the fly, but because of his IQ, I do think that he should be able to do so. Um, I do like his footwork. I do think he could be even better with his footwork, just so that he can create more shots around the basket since he does have the touch. And he does stretch the floor, so there's another skill set. Like, he has the ability to be a really good player, um, and has shown so. So to me, more of this is just adding more to the stuff he's good at, and then correcting the things he's not so good at. That makes him a more complete player. Obviously, I think, again, teams need size. Team needs guys who are going to rebound, who have good touch, are good finishers. Obviously, the feet are not fast. However, um, I'm looking at him, and obviously they're different players. But I was just thinking about trying to think here. There's a center that I just came to mind. Zubac.
Hmm.
Zubac. If he is able, because Zubac isn't the fastest, like, he doesn't have fast feet
Yeah, they
either.
definitely they have a similar frame. Definitely similar build.
But if he's able, and that's kind of my light comp for him, if he's able to, because I think Zubac does a good job of using his size, just being imposing, and so he does impact defensively just because of his ability to do that. A lot of that has to do with experience and time.
Mhm.
However, I do think if he was to look at somebody and how they use their size and kind of use uh, their ability to be imposing at 7 feet, that would be somebody I would probably watch if I was him and see. Hey, he's not the fastest guy on the court. However, he does get stops.
Mhm.
So, to me, between that and the ability to stretch the floor, I think that makes him the ability to be a two-way guy even
Yeah,
further. So,
it's intriguing. It's one. He's definitely an intriguing guy.
yeah.
There's
And then,
also a chance that he's just a really good college player, though. So, like
which,
his production might be nice in college, but his scalability on the NBA might be low.
yeah.
But
Now,
I do have hope in his ability to stretch the floor. I think that's a huge advantage he has. It's honestly he's probably a better prospect than Nate Biddle because he is so much. I know it's only a 2% difference, but the way they shoot the ball is so much different.
yeah, it
Thomas
is.
Love is definitely more natural, quick release than Biddle is, where Biddle's a little bit awkward as a shooter. Thomas Love just launches it quick and gets it
Yeah,
in.
he does. He does. Uh, the question is, will he be? And obviously, it really isn't up to him in that sense, because it would have to do with roster and coaching. But is he okay with being a backup big and just coming in and giving good
Yeah,
minutes
yeah.
and being able to prove his mobility? Those are the things that I think get him drafted.
Mhm.
Improvement in mobility, and then his ability to be versatile, uh, and making those reads, as we talked about, as far as the high post playmaking, outlet passes, could maybe look to make simpler decisions so he can
I
reduce
think his
turnovers.
decision making is fine. I think that's one of his greater strengths. I think that he does a really good job of like just keeping plays alive, just swings the ball at the right time. Doesn't really try to do too much, not too flashy as a passer. So he's not really manipulating defenses,
Right.
but he's making the smart plays.
Right. Right. So it's one of those things. We'll see. And that swings from him to his brother, who I think
Here.
is a different type of player, in my opinion. I
Thomas
think,
Lobb is definitely the better prospect out of the two, but
yes.
Devon Mir has definitely been the more hyped over the course of the years. Like a couple of years ago, he was dubbed, "Oh, he could be the next unicorn." Going from, I believe, they're going from Croatia to playing for Cal at Kentucky, just
Mhm.
because fits the mold for the unicorn. Fluid in an open floor, soft feet, coordinated, able to put the ball on the floor and shoot the ball. And
Right.
for granted, he can really shoot the ball. 37.6% from three last year.
Mm.
Dangerous pick and pop and trail guy, fluid mechanics, quick release, and deep range. He gets blocks, 1.9 blocks a game. He's a real lob target in space. Can play at the dunker spot or as a roll man in the pick and roll. He shot 75.9% at the rim last year. It's pretty good. Uses his wingspan really well on both sides of the floor. But really, we haven't seen with him. The big thing is we have not seen him in long extended stretches dominate like that. And it's interesting because he's been a career backup in college. He started off at Kentucky, was a backup. Then he went to Arkansas last year following Cal, backed up Jonas Adu. He's now going to Illinois with the rest of Eastern Europe and backing up his brother Tomislav. Because there's not a doubt Tomislav is going to start next year because he's the better scorer, he's the better rebounder, and the better defender. Now, Zavon you can probably run some really interesting two-man lineups with Savon Mir at the two, at the four, even though he's 7'2" and an inch or two taller than his brother. But you can get some really interesting combinations with him on the wing and Tomislav at the low post.
Yeah, and I think I have always been I've always been very, very careful with the unicorn
Yeah.
toss around. A mobile 7'2" guy. Okay, cool. I'm not knocking him. But throwing unicorn and putting things puts, again, to me, in my opinion, I do believe because they're going to be basketball players and in some cases high profile, that there is a bit of expectation that is okay. Putting unrealistic expectations on guys, and then in on the flip, I'm calling this out now, by the way, just to throw that out there, Jacob. Then to switch and go, he's not a unicorn. He sucks. Like I hate that whole thing passionately because to me,
It's very common nowadays just because of the way social media is and how quick everyone is to hype up one person.
and granted, 7'2" is great size. And so, again, a team is going to take a flyer on him because he's 7'2". And just maybe he plays, a backup role. He's already playing the backup role. So being able to come in, fit a role, and teams just kind of like play him because he has the size. If his footwork is going to be good, his effort's going to be good. Those are the kind of things that are going to get him drafted.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, because he's a different player than his brother, you're getting a different feel from the game from both of them. However, again, I'm not going to throw any unicorn stuff out because that's crazy to me. However, 7'2", 245 is good. Is good physicals.
Mm-hmm.
The question marks only are again the same thing that I have question marks for his brother. How mobile can he be for extended periods?
Yeah.
How much pace can he play with? How much feel can he play with for an extended period? I think they're going to be conditioned. I think they're going to be in good condition. I think they're
Well,
going to play well. But
I don't think Zavamir is particularly strong.
no,
I think he gets pushed around off of spots a lot, especially in the post. I think he struggles like the hold, like when he's posting up, he struggles to steal guys or even finish through contact.
full strength.
Yeah, that like his overall just like coordination and his coordination's fine, but his core strength and his like body gravity aren't 2 and 2. Doesn't
Right,
have that mind muscle connection yet.
right,
So he's gonna get outpositioned by bigger, stronger fours and fives, especially on box outs.
right.
And he isn't like the most active rebounder either. Like, he's getting rebounds because he's 7'2", not because he's flying around on the floor. And if he was flying around the floor, I think he'd average probably around 8 rebounds a game.
And what cooks me about that is being 7'2" and not being able to rebound is unheard of, in my opinion. Now, again, this is just another skill set where he needs to improve. And so that's fine. However, I would love to see that this upcoming season where he works on his ability to engage both core and hips, to block out, to seal guys, to grab rebounds, to use his frame, to utilize his size well. Because that's really the question mark, is how much can he use his size? Now, a guy, and this goes back to my thing. Don't call a guy a unicorn if he can't grab 5 or 10 more rebounds, like 5 to 10 rebounds per
game.
Just,
he played a lot more his sophomore season because he was healthy and got the waiver from the NCAA, obviously. So he played 35 games compared to 15 the year before. He went from 11 minutes to 19 minutes, and he only averaged 1 more rebound. Like, I think that's really good indicator of where he's at on that skill right now. He's definitely got to be aggressive more. Definitely got to be boxing out a little bit better. Definitely just got to get stronger.
Yeah, agreed.
And that will, if he's struggling like that on the NCAA level, I can't even imagine what NBA teams would do. He'd just be playing on the perimeter the entire time,
which you don't want from a guy who's 7'2".
Yup, exactly.
So, we covered guys basically that are in the second round or going to be second round picks, unless there is something completely drastic in their play. And for those who probably hopped on late, well, just to run through who we went through. So we went through Mackenzie from Texas A&M, Ian Jackson from St. John's, Johnson Sanon from St. John's, Darren Williams from NC State, PJ Haggerty from Kansas State, Nate Biddle, Oregon, Xavier Lee, new to Florida, Tomislav Visic, Illinois, and then Vonzimir Visic, Illinois as well.
So before we hop off, I just want to gauge where you're at with all these guys. Who are your 3 likely out of these 3 guys? Who are your 3 likely risers?
So,
because I think that this group in particular has a lot of question marks.
Yes,
and they have probably mid-second to undrafted range. So, but I think there's also a good chance 3 of these guys rise.
So my 3, Ian Jackson for sure, Darren Williams, and I want to go big here, but I feel like PJ Haggerty, like in that order. I think those are the guys that I think are risers. If I had to give short reasons here, not to take up too much of your time, Ian Jackson, just because I think he's going to play with more feel at St. John's. His ability to handle the ball might get more showcased, and his ability to find guys could be elevated if he's able. Pitino will obviously guide him and show him what he wants. And so in practice, he'll be able to say, hey, this guy cut here. You can find there's an ability to find scoring outside of you getting a bucket for yourself. This creates a better opportunity at the rim. Hey, you have the quickness to do this. Look for guys. And so to me, I think some of the decision making as a playmaker, especially because Pitino said it, they don't have a point guard. They're going to need him to read or be more intuitive about playmaking. Darren Williams, for the obvious reasons, glue guy, just going to be effort, defense. He plays rugged, he plays tough, and I think a lot of that, especially with NC State, is going to be mostly needed. And so his impact is going to be felt there. He has no problems being vocal on either side of the ball and making sure that his team understands what's needed. And then PJ, just because of the scoring, I do want to see him make more. Obviously, I'm not asking for a ton of assists, but if he's able to just be a little bit better with reads and finding guys, the microwave scoring is going to create gravity, be able to use that gravity to create opportunities. is going to be extremely important. So,
Mm.
what are your 3 guys?
So I said earlier, PJ was my favorite guy covering today, and I'll probably still have him at 1. I think he's got the mindset. I think he's got the skill. I think even though he's only 6'2", 6'3", I think him understanding how to use his body and how well he uses it to create advantages for him will take him so far. I will say I'm not totally sold as Ian Jackson as a guy who can scale down his role, but because of how supremely skilled he is and how electric of a scorer he is, I think that he's probably him and PJ are the only 2 guys that could probably consistently get NBA buckets right now.
Agreed.
And then my 3rd guy, I'm torn between Tomislav or Biddle. I think I'd probably lean Tomislav because of the shooting. I think he has a skill that will make him stand out. As compared to Biddle, it's kind of like, all right, we don't know how good of a shooter he is yet. Tomislav, he's a good shooter.
Right.
So those would probably be those 3 guys that would definitely be my top 45. I can see Darian Williams or Biddle being in there, but those 3 guys definitely.
For sure. For sure. Well, we're going to cover a lot more as we get closer to college season starting up. Look out for some more pods from us because we're going to cover quite a few things, college-wise, class-wise, and just kind of tie into a lot of hoops that's still going on, quietly kept. And so I'm excited, Jacob, glad having you on. Jordan will be back hopefully next pod. Got some cool life stuff happening. So, but thanks for watching, all 60 of you, 61 of you who've hopped on here and watched us talk about guys who probably won't crack the first round just because of the talent in this class. However, I think the talent is there for all of them to kind of have an NBA role and carve out a
But
career.
it's just fun talking basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So thanks for hopping on here to watch us on the Draft Stack. Look out for some upcoming pods. We'll put out more information for you guys to have a heads up on that. Other than that, you guys have a good one. Peace.